Hey everyone, Alex E. Talander here, and welcome to our bonus content as we work on putting Ostium Season 6 together. We're continuing with our Behind the Ostium series as we go in depth with the making and discussion of how each episode of Ostium came to be, as well as much more. I am joined by Dwayne Farver, a big fan of the show and creator of the spin off podcast Manifestations. If you enjoy the Behind the Ostium series, you can get full access to over 50 episodes right now by supporting Team Ostium on Patreon at patreon.com/ostiumpodcast. You'll also get access to a bunch of other bonus content on there too. Once again, that's patreon.com/ostiumpodcast. We'll continue working on getting Ostium Season 6 ready for release in 2022, but for now, sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Ostium.
Okay, episode 19, Home by the Sea. I knew at some point I wanted to do a really kind of official horror episode. This was a point where I was going to pull again from a moment in Jake's past. You'll be shocked to hear that I was also pulling from my past as a rental home. Which was actually in Fort Bragg. This is actually a friend of my mother-in-law's who has a place out there that we can rent. And this was actually the last kind of mini vacation we had before we had my son. So it was kind of like the last time before everything changed and we had no more time to ourselves for years. But with this, I knew I wanted to do a kind of deep, heavy horror episode. I knew as I was writing along this season that I needed to make each episode feel really individual and kind of unique because of what I could feel I was setting up for with the finale, so that when I reference stuff in the finale, you know exactly what time and place I was talking about. But I also wanted to change the feel of it, so I really tried to use kind of different language, not just the vocabulary, but with the kind of the voice for the episode. When I was working with Chris for recording it too, I wanted him to do a little different delivery on stuff, a little softer, a little different in the way he usually portrayed Jake and did the narration. And I felt he did do that pretty well. I wanted to do a play on kind of a haunted house, but the kind of haunted house that is worse than anything you could really imagine. And as I was writing it, that's what I felt going with each scene to scene, was just building more and more, making it more horrific, more over the top. And again, I feel like it works really well with what's been happening in the season so far, with this building up and up and up of tension and events. And the personalities for each of the characters are becoming more built up and reaching the brink and being pushed over. And so I knew when I got to that last horror door of what was going to be behind there, as I was writing, I could feel, oh, it's something with Monica. Again, this is where I was letting the story just tell through me and feeling, oh, it's in the ties me with Monica all of a sudden. And this is the moment where stuff gets revealed and Jake realizes it's her, and no matter what he might think, she isn't who she says she is, and everything's about to change. And it felt like it worked really well with the pacing and how that all came down. And at the end of it, I felt really proud for how the episode had come out, how the writing had come out, and I feel it's one of the best written episodes I've done.
I would agree.
If you like horror.
Yeah, true.
That's why I also did the kind of like warning at the beginning, just to let everyone know.
It definitely starts off in a way that it naturally slowly builds up too, because of the way they start, and it's just black, but then they start to hear, and I like the fact that you use like an auditory mirage when they start to hear the sea, but they don't really see the ocean yet. And then the phosphorescent algae just adds to something that probably should be pretty beautiful to see, but it's a very creepy. Yeah, something's not right.
Again, I've experienced both these things, the phosphorescent algae, and having stayed a number of times on the coast where back by the sea, where you can be asleep at night in the dark, and all you hear is the sound of the water, and the waves.
And then up to the shells of the insects on the path.
But I think I also had a lot of fun with the sound design with this one.
Yeah. I had my own experience with that, walking along somewhere at night and hearing and feeling, what am I walking on? Except mine were thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly snails.
Oh,
before I realized
alive?
And I'm like, there's nowhere I can walk without walking on a snail.
Were they all alive?
When I started, fortunately.
Where was this?
In California, in a place it was in the City of Industry. Depending on what map you looked at, it could have been Diamond Bar.
Okay.
It was, yeah. I was staying with a friend. His mother lived there.
Interesting.
In late early 91, I spent 3 months in Southern California.
Cool.
It was a very.
Did you ever find out why the deal was for the snails? Why there were so many there or anything? Or was it breeding season?
It must have been breeding season, because it was a very small area. Thankfully, I didn't, have to kill hundreds of thousands of them before I could get out of their way. And it was just on the side of the road where the sidewalk ended. And then I was on dirt, and then I was on something else.
Watching that, wow.
And, maybe 20 yards away, it stopped. And it was just like, that's where they were. That was
whole area. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But,
wow, it's cool you had such a visceral tie-in with that. Yeah. Because I definitely had images of obviously Indiana Jones, but also just thinking of what the sound design was going to be like and have fun with it. I remember one of the listeners just saying how creeped out she was by it.
The sound, whatever sound you used reminded me exactly of those.
Good.
And then moving up into the tombstones, San Francisco, Roanoke, all of the places we've heard about,
as well as the place they're currently at,
as well as Fort Bragg. Yeah. And then in the house, it was like going from room to room, progressively getting into maybe it wasn't like every room was just adding to another level, but it was adding a different layer of horror. So I could tell you were pulling from different possibly sources. Like the kitchen was one source, and then the dining room was another source. So it just added to nothing fits. The entire house isn't a theme. You go from room to room, and it's
so
different.
like a crazy kaleidoscope.
You're throwing you off, because it's like if you went into a house and it was just all covered with blood and gore, that'd be one thing. But it's like every room is a different way of dealing with so it was just off-putting, not knowing.
Discomforting, yeah. And because of how it was set up and everything too, they had to keep going to find out, to be sure, to know, to get the answers and get the artifact.
Which was in itself a bit gory, yeah.
But it's a great... Sarah did a great job drawing it, and you can get it on a t-shirt. Or
I was going to
say
it looks great on a t-shirt. And then, of course, at the very end, with the person who wrote in blood on the floor, giving away the fact that Monica is not who she seems.
Yeah,
implicated, tied
right.
to what's going on. Yeah.
And again, this feels like looking back, it feels like something I would have constructed out knowing what I was going to get to and stuff. But it was just something that came at the end there and just fit right in, and just as I was writing it, that's what I realized. And again, this is just slotted so nicely into place as I was writing the whole season.
So you did have the idea that Monica was not what we thought, but you didn't have the...
I didn't realize... Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize at this point that this was the hammer coming down, the gavel or whatever of now Jake knows for sure. And also at this point, she's kind of been, using her ability to kind of stop him with various devices and reset him so that he can't remember. And at this point now, there's kind of no turning back, but he does know.
I do have my last note is the gloves.
Right.
We find out about the gloves.
Right. Yeah, that's where you first. I didn't want to give that away too soon until I knew I was getting to it. And that's when they come. So at this point, we've gone beyond the point of no return, and that's when you get to when they go back to put the artifact on the map table, and that's when the big change happens and everything kind of changes and starts new again. And it's definitely harkening back to season 1 with the earthquake event and that thing kind of resetting stuff too. And it's almost like there's too much building up in whatever the energy potential, whatever you want to say, for Ostium with each thing, event and artifact, possibly whatever, building and building and building, and then it reaches a threshold point and then has to do something new or different, you know?
And that works really well for a story.
I just got to figure out why. Maybe that'll be in season 6 too. We'll see. Grant. Oh, the other thing to mention too is the name of the episode for episode 19 is, of course, a Genesis reference, because I had to put at least one in at some point as a huge Genesis fan. Also, it was the title of the first novel I ever wrote that was like 30, 40 pages that was about a haunted house and also an alien abduction and weird stuff that I don't really remember or have anymore. Yeah. So little Easter egg there.